It's 3:50 a.m, the 1st of May 2000. I am a police officer. My partner, Constable Charnel Cole, my sergeant, Chris Mulhall, and I are investigating a routine job, death threats, which was spoken 14 hours earlier. Chris is sat in the driver's seat of his patrol vehicle and he's using a mobile phone to do background checks on the suspect. Charnel has decided to sit in the front passenger seat and she's using the police radio to do background checks on the two males who called us there. I think I can open the back door, slide across into the middle of the seat, listen to the information coming in. And we're going to be here such a short amount of time. I'll just leave the side of the patrol car door open. It's dark, it's still, and it's so quiet, you can hear a pin drop. All of a sudden, I hear this pat, 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 pat coming from the left-hand side. I think, what can that be? It must be some neighbourhood dog running up to the car. So I nonchalantly turn and look. Standing there is a man. Pointed less than a metre from my face is a .22 calibre rifle. Bang, I've been shot in the face. Bang, I've been shot in the arm. My hands are around my mouth. There's blood, there's teeth, there's bones. I try to open the door here. I cannot. I sit up. Chris's door is open. His seat is empty. Charnel is splattered with blood. She looks motionless. I scream at Charnel, get help. I draw my firearm and I go out through the door that I got shot through. Chris, Charnel and I were all shot multiple times. But miraculously, we all survive. A massive manhunt commences. Brisbane is on edge. At the end of the third week of the manhunt, a breakthrough. The offender, Nigel Perotti, is located in bushland, 2 kilometres from where he ambushed us. The weapon he shot us with, he used to take his own life. I was shot in the face and I was shot in the shoulder. But what damage did that first bullet really do? This 3D animation shows that damage. The bullet smashes the maxilla bone, destroys 5 teeth, deflects down, enters my tongue and lodges at the back of my throat. I go through 20 months of surgery to reconstruct my shattered mouth. This is me coming home from the first procedure, a bone graft. I'm physically and emotionally distressed. The reconstruction is so intrusive, it is in fact a second trauma. It's 2003, my reconstruction is complete. I'm sent to an independent surgeon, Dr. John Arvia, to inspect the reconstruction. He asked me to sit in his dentist chair and he looks at my mouth and then says, "Thank you, Daryl. Please sit up. Now, step into my office, take a seat. Daryl, you were just in my dentist chair. I could not clean the apparatus you have in your mouth. There's no way you can clean it. You're at risk of blood-borne disease and that's very dangerous. I'm sorry, but your reconstruction has failed." A seismic emotional quake rips through into my body to every nerve. I face a second reconstruction and I know the horrific surgery that is ahead of me. And I do something that is very common to people suffering post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. I withdraw from the world. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to go out. I just want to crawl up into a ball and hide. But just before I'm to undergo the surgeon's knife for them to attempt a second reconstruction of my mouth, my dear mum, she pleads with me to go somewhere. She has to use all her persuasive power to coax me out of the family home. And we go to the cinema. Mum has heard great things about a new movie and really wants to see it with Dad and I. So we go to the Dawn Theatre at Chermside. The movie is a true story. The central character is small, odd-looking, and people have just given up on him. The experts think he is broken. This is exactly how I'm feeling, broken. I come out of the cinema and I'm highly emotional. I feel from my bones to my soul, small, fragile, inadequate, that many people have just thrown me on the trash heap of life. And I relate to the true story so much because of this. But just like the true story, all I can do is keep putting one foot in front of the other. I did not realise it at the time, but I'm going to call on this story in the future. We'll come back to the film. It's now time for surgery. A second attempt is carried out to reconstruct my mouth. The last procedure takes place in 2007. Finally, the reconstruction is a success. It's now 2010, and the last decade, it has been tumultuous. The shooting, 2 attempts to reconstruct my mouth. I studied for 5 years part-time whilst working full-time as a police officer. That part-time study was to earn a master's degree in finance, which I complete with the idea of having a career outside the police in the finance industry, only to have this scuttled by the GFC. And I fight a 10-year battle for criminal compensation. At last, life is starting to return to some normality. I'm then introduced to the chairman of Special Olympics Australia, Mark Streeting, and he says to me, "Hey Greenie, how would you like to raise some funds for Special Olympics?" "Why sure, Mark, love to. What can I do to help, mate?" "That's great, Greenie. All I want you to do is come climb this with us." Kilimanjaro, this is going to mean a significant commitment of time, energy and money. It is 5,895 metres in height. My God, what am I going to do? I jump at the opportunity. Normality becomes routine, and routine quickly becomes boring. It's a chance to shake things up. So I plan, I train, I pay the expenses, and I fly out to Tanzania, Africa. And I am ready for the 7-day trek. At the end of day 4, we make camp here. It's just over 24 hours until we are due to commence the midnight climb, when you climb to the summit of Kilimanjaro and see the sunrise in the morning. This night, am I excited, restless, dog-tired? Yeah, all of the above. So how do I spend this night? I spend it here, on the toilet. At 11 p.m, I wake with a mouthful of my dinner. I struggle to open the zipper of my tent, push my head outside and throw up. I come down with violent vomiting and diarrhea. I'm suffering food poisoning. Sitting on the loo in the darkness, Jo, the young Australian girl from a tour company, comes to check on me. "Oh, hi Daryl, it's just Jo. I'm here to help you, help you any way I can." Now I'm making all sorts of embarrassing sounds that are echoing out throughout the still dark night. And I shout out into the darkness, "When you applied for this job, Jo, I bet this role was not included in the job description." She says, "Ha ha ha, funnily enough, Daryl, it was." When things go pear-shaped in life, you can either laugh or cry. I'd rather laugh. I'm able to get 1 hour's sleep that night, and then I have to commence trekking at 8 a.m. the next day. This day's trekking is spent, as the travel brochure describes it, crossing a sparse moon-like landscape. Our party is 14 people, 3 guys and 11 girls. I'm trekking along, and then my stomach starts to rumble. Oh, I need to find somewhere private. But where? We're on an open plain. The rumbling gets worse. I have cramps like daggers. I've got to find somewhere. But where? I cannot, just in front of everybody. From our amazing world travels, we all have fond memories, be it a view of a restaurant, or a beach. Me, I have my favourite rock. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, appears this huge rock. It's big enough to hide me. I am saved. My dignity is saved. And I am relieved. We continue trekking and we make the next campsite and I pass out at 4 p.m. But then I'm woken at 11 p.m. because we have to start the midnight climb to the summit. I'm preparing to climb to the tallest mountain in Africa. I should be actually resting in bed on medication. But what do? I get up and keep on putting one foot in front of the other. We start the climb under the stars. It's pitch black, but looking up the mountain, I can see a trail of trekkers' headlamps snaking its way up the mountains. The thought of climbing 1,165 metres over the next 7 hours is despairing. I start trudging up the mountain. Then I see a young European girl in tears being escorted down the mountain. And she is crying. She has an African guide with her. And one of our guides turns to us and says, she cannot make the climb. She's suffering altitude sickness. Seeing this poor girl fail at the footstep of the dream, my heart slumps. The thought of standing on the summit of Kilimanjaro at dawn, it's impossible. What do? I turn to my hero for inspiration, the story portrayed in the film that Mum coaxed me to see in 2003. My hero's story begins like this.
The first time he saw Seabiscuit, the colt was walking through the fog at 5 in the morning. Smith would say later that the horse looked right through him, as if to say, "What the hell are you looking at? Who do you think you are?" He was a small horse, barely 15 hands. He was hurting too. There was a limp in his walk, a wheezing when he breathed. Smith didn't pay attention to that. He was looking the horse in the eye. God damn. He was the son of Hardtack, sired by the mighty Man-O-War, but the breeding did little to impress anyone at Claiborne Farms.
Get rid of him.
At 6 months, he was shipped off to train with the legendary trainer Sonny Fitzsimmons, who, over time, developed a similar opinion of the colt.
Is that a racehorse or a lead pony?
They made him a training partner to better horses, forcing him to lose head-to-head duels to boost the confidence of the other animal. By the time he was 3 years old, Seabiscuit was struggling in 2 cheap claiming races a week. Soon he grew as bitter and angry as his sire Hardtack had been. He was sold for the rock-bottom price of $2,000. And of course, it all made sense. Champions were large, they were sleek, they were without imperfection. When they finally did race him, he did just what they had trained him to do. He lost.
Seabiscuit was small, odd-looking, and the experts thought he was broken. Facing the second reconstruction in 2003, this is exactly how I felt, broken. But Seabiscuit's story does not end there. This man saw something others did not. Potential. He's one of an unlikely trio. This is unorthodox trainer Tom Smith, not to be confused with the Australian Tommy Smith. Next, we have self-made millionaire, the owner, Charles Howard. And lastly, a failing jockey, Red Pollard. These three, they simply would not give up on Seabiscuit. Under their care, Seabiscuit stuns the world. He's the first horse to earn over $400,000 US. That's $6.5 million a day. He becomes a national celebrity, and in 1938, the #1 newsmaker judged on the number of articles written about them. It is not President Roosevelt, it is not Mussolini, it is not Hitler. It is small, odd-looking, broken Seabiscuit. But Seabiscuit's greatest challenge is ahead of him. He faces, in what is dubbed the match of the century at Pimlico Racecourse in Baltimore, a head-to-head duel, just him and one other horse. Triple Crown winner, the giant, beautiful, and some describe as the perfect horse, War Admiral. The bookmakers had the Admiral the vast favourite, 4-1 in many instances. The race is run over 1 3/16 of a mile, or 1.91 kilometres. And rather than a starting gate, they use a walk-up start. And to signal the commencement, they use an alarm bell. They are off and racing in front of a crowd of 40,000 and another 40 million listen in over the radio. It's equivalent to a Super Bowl audience. The race literally stops the United States. One person in particular scheduled time out of their hectic schedule to listen in, President Roosevelt. The outcome? Seabiscuit does not win. Does not win by 1 horse length, not 2, not 3, but by 4 horse lengths, and breaks the track record. All this despite War Admiral running his best time for that distance. Seabiscuit inspires me because I learned about his story in a very dark time in my life, when I was feeling broken, facing the second Reconstruction. Where Seabiscuit had 3 people not giving up on him, I had 2 people in my corner refusing to give up on me. Mum and Dad. And my dad, he's doing what he's always done, supporting me by being here today. Stand up, Dad. I love you. I've read the best-selling book on Seabiscuit by Laura Hildenbrand. When he starts to win, they start handicapping, loading up with more and more weight. But Seabiscuit, he has a secret. Returning from injury, his first race back, they loaded him up with 130 pounds, more than any other horse in the race. California horse trainer Leonard Dorfman, in an interview, described that secret when he said, Seabiscuit, he carries that 130 pounds like you or I carry an envelope. Seabiscuit's secret is, he is a great weight carrier. As I look up Kilimanjaro in 2030 this night, my body feels like lead. I'm on the edge of failure. But I think of my inspiration and I say to myself over and over, Seabiscuit is a great weight carrier. So am I. This helps me keep putting one foot in front of the other up the steep mountain path for the next 7 hours. It's amazing how far a small piece of inspiration can carry us. For me, exhausted, fatigued, sick, Seabiscuit inspires me to literally climb a mountain. Triumph. What did I learn from Seabiscuit? Well, that's what I'd like to share with you today. And that's the power of drawing on inspiring true stories to help bolster your resilience. When you face vitriolic criticism, turn to Muhammad Ali's story to help ignore the criticism and to go on. If you face injustice, turn to Nelson Mandela's story to help you fight on and be magnanimous in victory. And if powerful people put obstacles in your way, turn to the Hidden Figure story, the female team of African American mathematicians who helped NASA put the first American into space. I promise you this, in your darkest hours, if you watch, read or listen to a true inspiring story of somebody who was in a similar circumstance to yourself, it will serve you very, very well and help you be incredibly resilient beyond your wildest dreams. 10 years for criminal compensation. The law at the time was written that if you were a victim of a crime, you're entitled to criminal compensation if the offender is found guilty, if the offender is found insane, if the offender goes missing. Under our circumstances, something else occurred. He committed suicide. And so when the Department of Justice in Queensland was written to, they wrote back and said, sorry, Daryl does not qualify. And then my lawyers continued to write back, ask for an ex gratia payment. And in 2010, there was a newspaper article that said, red tape ambush, copper shot decade ago, still fighting for criminal compensation. That seemed to change a few people's minds.
Anybody else? Just quickly? No? All right, I'll help you. Shall I help you?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Daryl?
Yes. If you could take that.